This is John Cameron with Gray Area, where we make it our mission to unite the house music community across the globe. And today I'm speaking with ACRAZE. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And
Awesome.
you know, your career really gained momentum since your cover of Do It To It by Cherish. What has that release done for you?
Where do I begin? I feel like that song has just put me in another stratosphere. I feel like I started, I always say this, I remember starting in my bedroom years ago and just making music in my bedroom. And now I'm traveling the world. I'm in Brazil right now for a show, and it's just, oh man, it's so surreal to be able to do what I love and to be able to do it at this level as well. So it's actually really fucking cool.
That's really cool. Brazil. What have been some of your favorite places to visit or favorite gigs to play so far?
Favorite gigs, Tomorrowland was super sick. I've always wanted to play at Tomorrowland. Ultra Miami. I actually played Ultra Croatia and then Ultra Europe. So I played 3 Ultras this year, which was really sick. They were all amazing. We went to Sensation in Amsterdam. We had a show with DJ Snake at Parc des Princes. It's like, I think it's the PSG stadium. It's like a massive soccer stadium, and that was really cool. My favorite place to be, Greece. I love being in Greece. The islands is definitely my vibe. I get to put my hair down and just be free. I love being on a boat, especially in Greece. That's my favorite thing to do, especially with my team. But yeah, I feel like I'm missing a lot of shows, but those are definitely ones that have been highlighted since I've been touring.
That sounds like a good highlight reel for sure. And most recently, your big release that just came out is Believe, which is, of course, a cover of I Need a Miracle by Coco. Some people might think this looks like an interesting trend, like a lot of big remakes and covers that you're doing. But I read in a recent interview that you're more interested in focusing on solo music for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to stay in the original realm, but there's always something in there's just something about sampling that I feel like that there's just always going to be inspiration there for me. There's always going to be something there that I can, when I'm not feeling the original stuff, or maybe I'm kind of like stumped or something, there's no good feeling other than finding a good sample on YouTube, or you go to the vinyl store and you go find like some cool vinyls, and you find some cool samples that way too. I feel like it's just sample digging and knowing how to like actually find a good sample and knowing how to manipulate it. It's definitely an art itself. So I think it's really cool.
And it is really fitting for house music too, because from the very beginning of house music history, it's really heavily emphasized derivative works. Back then, of course, it was old soul, funk, and disco that they were
exactly
making. Yeah. Is that a tradition that you take pride in upholding as an artist?
Yeah, it is. I don't know. There's just not a lot of nostalgia in the older days for me.
I see.
Yeah.
And speaking of the old days, take me back to the very beginning. What were your first experiences of music? Like, what were the first things that caught your attention in music?
So no one in my family is musically inclined, so I just came out of nowhere and was just I stuck out like a sore thumb in my family. Being one of those people to choose a career that they don't know much about, they were just looking for security, and that's why they wanted me to go to school. But I was just like, I hate school. I hate like just being in a class learning about stuff that I really don't care about, because at the time, like, I just wanted to do music. That's all I really wanted to do. So school was not even an option for me. So I was kind of like in a bad stump. I was pretty broke at the time, and just like figure out how I can, find money to buy samples or, buy production stuff for me. It was a pretty tough time. I'm not gonna lie, but I found out how to make music for a while. I stayed at my friend's house for like 2-3 years, and I just figured it out. I started releasing music, and I went from transitioning to like trap and bass music to like trying to like during quarantine, that's when I was making my switch to house music. But I was always making house music before. Like when I first started producing, like I never like just stuck to one genre. So I was making a bunch of stuff, like I was just never sticking to one thing, and just that's one thing that I'm pretty glad about. Like I can go into a studio if I feel a vibe, then I can pretty much make anything, from ballads to pop music to house music, you name it, I'm there. So that's something that I'm pretty blessed about having is that diversity,
I see.
So,
and would you consider like your first official release to be Ice Cold on Thrive?
I would say, I mean, it was a remix, but I think like my first official release would probably be like, I'm trying to remember the records I put out.
Sure, I'm sure there was a lot of stuff you produced that didn't get an official release before then too.
Yeah, I mean, I put out Pull Up, which was like a bouncy, clubby type of record on Maca. So I guess that was like my first record as me on a label. So
I see. And then what led you to switch to house music during the pandemic?
Like I said, I was making house music for a while. I just never stuck to it, so I was just like making it here and there. During quarantine, I was just like getting really bored of bass music. I don't know why. I just couldn't like find inspiration for it. So I started, switching up. How I produce is pretty interesting, because I feel like how I catch a good or like creative drift is if I'm like stuck on a certain genre, I'll move to another one, get like a bunch of records during like let's just say I'm stuck on making house music. I can't make anything. I'll switch to like, let's just say like some sort of pop music or like some R&B or like some sort of pop, just switch it up, get as creative as I can, and then go back and then, try to like spark some sort of inspiration there.
I see. So you beat writer's block just by like switching to a different genre.
Yeah, or even there's a lot of things. I never really have writer's block because I have so many different things I can figure out. Like I look for samples, I look for sample packs. I'll buy new samples. I look for presets for like different VSTs and plugins. Like I'll go like the whole way, until I figure something out. So
I see. Are there any other like points of your production sort of creative process that you think would surprise people or are unique?
I mean, I make all my music off my laptop. I feel like studios kind of scare me. They kind of feel like the dentist office. Like you don't want to go, and you're like kind of like, oh fuck, you're dreading it. Sometimes I feel like that, but it just depends who I'm with. Like I guess now I know how to get into a room and kind of control it. But like when I was first starting, like I remember, when I put Do It To It out, months went by, it started growing bigger and bigger. So my label was like, yo, we got a lot of people asking to get in the studio with you. So I was just like, oh, I honestly don't know if I want to do that. Because like I said, I came from my bedroom, didn't produce anyone, didn't do many collabs. If I did a collab, it was over the computer. So I never knew what it was like to be in a studio session with someone else. So when I got like, all these sessions, through my label, I remember being in the first one, it kind of felt natural. Like I was just, in the studio, I was like, just playing around with stuff, and people would be like, oh, I like that. So I would like, play a bass line and then put it in FL, start messing with it, put some drums on it. And then people would start, singing. I would like, kind of like help them write. And it kind of felt natural. So now I'm in a studio session doing everything, I'm not just like sitting there waiting for people to, work, so it's kind of cool how my workflow has changed.
I see. And before you kind of made this, I mean, obviously you make a lot of different stuff and always have, like you said, but before you kind of started emphasizing house music more, you'd already had some releases on Chami's Confession imprint. Do you feel like that was a good middle ground of like the different things that you're into?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Yeah, that Marco Polo record I still play to this day. I don't really play many of my older records, but that's one that I definitely play a lot. I don't know why. Every time I play it, it always goes off. Especially Funky Town too. I play Funky Town as well. Yeah, I definitely think those records kind of helped me shape my house kind of lame. I still feel like I'm still searching a sound, but I definitely feel like I have one. I'm just, still, producers overthink shit all the time. So people will say, oh, I don't have a sound, but like, doing like little niches and repetitiveness is something that, kind of creates a sound. But going back to your question, yeah, I definitely think, releasing on Confession first was a good move for me to like kind of start my direction into house music.
I see. And it's kind of interesting that your turning point came during the pandemic too, because the pandemic was a turning point for a lot of artists in a lot of different ways. Do you feel like there were other things that changed about you, maybe creatively or even like, on the business side of the industry and stuff like that during the pandemic?
Yeah. I remember like during the pandemic, like it was just like me and my manager just always going back and forth on like, we would always say, if we work hard now in the pandemic when nothing's happening, because there was no momentum for anyone, so I was just sitting there like every day, like 15 hours a day. I would wake up at like 8 o'clock in the morning and then work like all the way until like maybe midnight and just do the same thing over and over. I wouldn't even leave my room to eat. Sometimes I would bring the food in the fucking room and just eat.
Wow.
Yeah, I was grinding. And I always knew like if I worked hard where no one was kind of like moving, that I would come out like, with some sort of, momentum, and it worked. I made a lot of records during quarantine, so it really helped. And even learning the business side of things too, like, my manager was always reading books and, finding different articles, reading, about business and stuff. And it kind of helped us like, along the way, especially like what we're doing now. It definitely helps knowing the business side of things, because it gets pretty scary, because, there's a lot of people that come into this doing record deals or even signing records to labels, and they don't even know what they're signing. So it's like getting a good team, getting a good lawyer on your hands. I feel like, it's something that you should do if you have time to like kind of sit there and build your vision.
I see. And house is kind of trending in an interesting direction. And really, it has been for a long time now. For like a number of years, it's been sort of had a lot more mainstream interest. It started with like Fisher having a Billboard #1, and now it's like Drake and Beyonce are dabbling in house a little bit. Do you like this? Do you hate it? Somewhere in between? What do you think? What do you think could come out of this?
I think it's cool, man. I think like seeing new faces in the industry is special. I feel like that's the way that, we see all these massive artists, like you said, Beyonce and Drake getting into house music. I think like that only helps, the genre even explode more. It becomes, I guess it becomes more commercialized, but it also gives artists like a better chance to like, I guess like there's a bigger goal, now. Drake's in house music. Now it's my dream to even collab with him. Now I know there's a chance. I didn't even know he was like into that shit. But Beyonce too, like that's so sick. Some people will think differently and be like, why are they in? They don't know anything about the music, the culture, and I think like people think way too deep into those kind of things. I think if people are putting out good music and pushing the genre, I think that's what matters.
I see. And technology always pushes electronic music, kind of just by definition.
Yeah.
You keep up to date on different production methods and software and things like that. What do you think? What methods or software do you think could evolve the house sound while it's going through this period of sort of mainstream interest?
Honestly, like I think like I hear a lot of people starting to use like a lot of or I'm starting to see a lot more like physical hardware being used, as like the profits, all those physical hardware via or synthesizers and stuff like that. I see that coming back a lot. I even use it myself. So I think it's cool. And even sampling too, like just the mash between the two. I think that's bringing like a very old vibe back into the scene, which is really sick.
I see. And on the DJ front, obviously now you're gigging a lot more. What are you doing to keep yourself excited as a DJ? since you have a lot more performances to give?
That's easy. Playing new music. Playing new music is like a different type of feeling, you know, like when you got a new record and you're about to do a show, you're like, I'm always amped up to play and see the reaction. I think that's what we all, you know, want to do, is just DJ and play our new records and hope to, you know, you work so long on a song. It's like, you know, are people going to like it? Are people going to vibe to it? You know, that's one thing that you always think, but if it goes off, you know, that's like, it pays off right there, you know?
I see. And people who are fans of your music, what do you think they might be surprised to learn about you? Any hobbies or interests or anything like that that have been sort of out of the spotlight?
To be honest, like, I don't really have many hobbies because like I don't really have time to do anything because I'm touring
Right.
so much. But if I'm at home, like I like to just, you know, go to the gym, or I like to just go play basketball, kind of get my mind off of things. I do like sports a lot. So, but that's pretty much it. I'm a pretty simple guy, man. I just like making music. That's really all I like doing.
I see. Well, I want to thank you so much for meeting with me today. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And I want to thank everybody for tuning into this interview. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me.